Carol, you've been very patient, Carol. I'm going to bring you in because it's occurred to me, Carol, that probably of all of us on this call, you will know Bomber a lot more in terms of his capabilities and how much or how little you need to manage him, etc. So say something nice about him, please, Carol.
Well, to be fair, you can't really say anything bad about him. We all know what he's like, and personally, for me, to have him in our team, whether it was me managing him or as promoter, he's one of them riders that's a dream to have with you, because he gives you no aggro. He's more than happy to help, to do everything, as he's done recently with us, with our little, outing at Mildenhall. He obviously popped along with Cruz and said hello and got cold and wanted to ride and asked me why I didn't ask him. And there's very few riders that are riding now that I would have in every team that I put together, and he's one of them. As we know, we know why, because how he rides. It's 110%. It's all or nothing, and you don't get many of them anymore. And you don't get many of them with the personality of obviously Chris. And not just Chris. Obviously, Emma, is a massive part of what he does, and now with Cruz, it's ongoing, and without any of them, he wouldn't be the same person. We know we'd get him as a racer, but as a person, he wouldn't. So, to have him in the teams that I've, that we've enjoyed our time together, it's been fantastic. And there's not many riders that I can say that I would sign every season if I could, but obviously Bomber's one of them, and we know what he does, heart on the sleeve. It's I always find with certain riders, doesn't matter whether you're a guest rider or anything, whoever he's riding for, it's his whole heart into that team. If it's for one night, it's everything for that night. And that's the sort of attitude that we don't get from some of the younger riders. And, because he's been about, he's experienced, he's been many tracks, done a lot of things. You just go through the number of trophies that he's won, and Bomber's one of these. He's not big-headed. He doesn't walk around on Mr. Harris, on this, on that. He's down to earth. You know what you get with him. He's 100%, and that's what I love about him. I think he's brilliant. I couldn't. Between him and Hans Nielsen, if Hans is listening, I probably like Bomber a little bit more. and Hans is my hero. But
I'll send you the envelope.
But that's what you get with him, and I cannot knock the bloke. He's been a pleasure to deal with, pleasure to work with. No questions asked when we've dealt with money. Early season, it's like, yeah, this is what you get. We can offer you, Bomber. It's a yes or no, and that's what I like. There's no, I'll do it for this or I'll do it for that. He's straight, and that's good. I can't knock him for that at all.
This has turned into this is your life, Chris Harris moment, hasn't it?
I know.
Chris Harris, this is your life.
Yeah.
So, Chris, listen, thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming in and having that conversation with Chris. Chris, a little brief look back at the season just gone. Premiership, first of all. So Kings Lynn, you started at reserve in about 5 minutes flat. You were number one. You were beaten in the knockout cup final, despite a disappointing season outside looking in, at least as far as the league campaign was concerned. But the Kingsland side that was put together, Chris, from top to bottom, appeared to have lots of strength and depth and the ability for riders to interchange and swap positions and keep the points coming in. But it didn't quite work out the way that I guess that Rob would have wanted the team to function last season. Can you put your finger on why it didn't quite happen that way?
Yeah, when the team was built, it was built for everyone to improve their average. Really, obviously Ashton, we lost him early on to his retirement. I guess he was finding it hard. So, but I think the biggest bit was when Ben got injured, we never really could replace him as a rider as well. And the reserve, where we were at reserve, we always had a good 6, I guess. I was down there for a bit, and then went to 1. Then we had Nikolai, so we always had a good number 6. It's just we never all really clicked when we needed it. And say losing Ben during this halfway through the season was tough. And then when he come back, it did show that. I think when he lost maybe 1 or 2, I think after he come back, and it was a shame that it happened when it did. Obviously, was all gutted. The team was built to make the playoffs, and I think if we made the playoffs, we could have upset a few. But that's Speedway. That's part of the sport we love, and roll again next year, and wherever the teams are, we start again.
Exactly, Chris. We do it all over again. And listen, a little touch point on the championship season, because it was almost the polar opposite to Kings Lynn, because Glasgow had a impressively strong league campaign. We lost very few meetings home or away. The playoffs were a bit of a stress. The semi-final was a stressful, dramatic dogfight between the local rivals Edinburgh and ourselves. And the final, by crikey, I still haven't quite recovered from the final, Chris. For Glasgow to pull back the 12-point deficit on Poole, take it to a race-off, a superheat, was beyond any Hollywood script, really, Chris. I mean, can you even at the time, Chris? I don't know how you, Kyle, and the other guys, Leo, and the other guys, don't know how you coped with the pressure every time you lined up at tapes, semi-final or the final.
Yeah, I've always been I never really let the pressure really get to me. I suppose over the years you learn to channel it in the right way. But I was always taught from a young age, growing up, and when riding with other riders like Michael Cole, Simo, and then going on to the elite league and that. They always said, at the end of the day, we're all the same. We've got arms, legs. It's just people. Everyone's going to get beat. So it's just that's how I've always looked at it. So I've never really looked across the line thinking, I've got X, Y, and Z next to me. It's like, right, I want to win this, because if I win it, it means I've had a good night. You know what I mean? So that's really never bothered me. Yeah, obviously I think for the playoffs for Glasgow and for British Speedway against Edinburgh at home, obviously the one away at Edinburgh didn't go to plan. We pulled that back. It was great advertising for British Speedway, and then obviously the final over the 2 legs. The discussion with what down at Poole with the tracks and that, which. At the end of the day, they did what they did, and they needed to do to stop us. But obviously, returning at Glasgow, we couldn't do any more. But for a fan, as what we all are looking in, and I've watched the meeting back, it's a great advert for Speedway for racing up there, and for my eyes, it's one of the best racetracks ever anywhere. So that's what the fans want to see. They want to see great racing. They don't want to see gate and go, and I certainly don't want to see gate and go, because I'm a racer. And like we said at Glasgow, I've had some great races there. Against Sam Masters, loads. Every time Sam Masters comes to Glasgow, me and him, we're banging elbows, passing inside out for 3-4 races. Many times we meet, we have good races, and I beat him, he's beat me, and we both gone back to the pits, and both gone around and see each other and went, I bloody enjoyed that. If we could just do that all day and not worry about knocking it, and go back to what we were talking with Lawrence, trusting that guy.
Yeah.
You've got to trust your opposition, and some riders you wouldn't go elbow to elbow because you know that they would shove you in the fence. But I'm not that sort of rider. I feel fair. I've always thought if you get beat, you get beat, but do it fair.
Yeah.
And I can take losing. I hate losing like everyone, but if I've had a good race and lost because I've just got outsmarted or whatever, you think fair play. That was a good race. I'll get you next time. That's the way I've always looked at it.
Hey, Chris, so I'm going to come to something in a second. At the weekend, Chris, you were invited along to the World Speedway Riders Association Awards ceremony in the Leicester Marriott, and you were one of the award winners on the night. You received a lovely shiny steel shoe trophy as for the ride of the year, for being playoff bomber in that grand final second leg at Ashfield. Heat 15, Heat 14, the score was 87 all. Glasgow and Poole It went down to Heat 15, potentially to win the league title. Chris, would you do me the privilege of talking your way through that heat if I put it on screen right now and we'll have a quick look at it? Let me just do that right now.
You've got a handsome chap off gate 3 there.
Have you grown a moustache?
At the time, Chris, at the time, the stadium, the atmosphere in the stadium was incredible, and obviously it was a super high pressured meeting, heat, I should say, Heat 15, potentially, a heat advantage to either team, and the title was theirs, and you didn't make your best gate, Chris, if you don't mind me saying. Yes.
A great game, but I know I had good speed all night, so I wasn't really bothered about where I started on the gate runners, and we thought Kyle wasn't going to go as wide as probably I would go, so obviously I loved it there. I managed to get past Richie quite early on, so I knew it'd be tough around there. So and then I sort of, when you ride against riders, I study where they ride and where they don't ride, and I sort of really, I could probably just squeeze around the outside way of the gap and just drop the elbow there. Didn't realise I was as close as I was until I watched it back the other day. Because the wife was like, "You give me a heart attack." I'm like, "Right, I lose it really," so I actually watched it. But yeah, I knew I had to stop. Zap them to drop it down the curve, but I still needed to get my momentum. So, but I knew where my bike was working. When I'm in that dirt, the bike works perfect. So yeah, there was a bit tight where Richie just lifted and thing, but. Yeah, it was just a shame we didn't have the tail in as what we wanted to in the Super Heat. We didn't make. I should have made some changes for it, but it was sort of a bit of a mad rush. And like, when your bike's going around, you only brought the corner all night. You're sort of afraid that you want to change anything. But all in all, it was a great season at Glasgow. It's a shame we sort of left with no trophy, but you can only thank the Facenders for putting trust in us, and the fans were getting behind us, and the track staff for giving us a great racetrack to race on.
Thank you, Chris. Listen, a few more questions just to round off, if you don't mind, Chris. So we haven't had the AGM yet, and in the second segment of tonight's podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about the silence. The silence is deafening a little bit, right? And a lot of supporters, ourselves included, are a bit unsettled by that. You're one of the few riders who has held up a contract or a couple of contracts, I think, for next season. Obviously, you haven't confirmed the clubs, etc. I'm not going to be asking you who the clubs are, but the question I wanted to ask you, Chris, is, as from a rider's perspective, how critically important is it? How financially viable must it be for you, Chris Harris, to continue to be able to double up and double down unless British Speedway, join forces and win one big league with many more fixtures?
Yeah, well, the contracts, one was to do with Cruz to be his mechanic for next year, and the other one the sponsor. So, but yeah, no, for the rider it's frustrating because you want to sort it all out. And this time is right, especially with the climate is trying to get sponsors is hard enough as it is. So when you sort of want to get out there, so you can say where you're riding, so then you can go to places near there where you're riding to get some sponsors. It's always hard work anyway, so that's for a rider. It's really frustrating. Nothing's been sorted out yet. I would say it was more like, for me, it's not a thing that I have to double up. It's more because obviously I need to double up because I want to ride. If it went above one big league and we had loads of race meetings, then it was good. So I don't think necessarily that you need two leagues. It's nice that you've got a Premiership, a Championship and everything, but I think at the whole they need to look at it, try and what's best for British Speedway at the minute to get it back to a level where we could. You look at the polls and how far ahead they are, but then you look at the finances that they're paying. Okay, they're paying big bucks, but that bubble will burst because clubs out there I hear are going bust and owing riders money and left, right and centre. So it's not all roses out there. Obviously the top riders are getting their money, but it's taking a lot. But for us, we just need to concentrate on getting the product right. I want the best riders over here because I want to ride against the best riders. But I still think if we've got a good lot of youngsters coming through, and I think we need to protect them to get them into a good position. But also give the fans entertainment. You know, I know everyone, we all want to win, like I said, but I want to race. I want to, you know, I watch Speedway in the season. If we're not doing anything and I'm at home, 95% of the time, I've got a live stream on somewhere. It could be anywhere, but I'm at home watching the Speedway, just because I love it. And the amount of time we've been watching it thinking, this is so boring. Watching the tractor go around is more exciting than the racing. And I want to see racing. I want to see back like the old days, you know, swapping lines, passing to and fro. And we just don't have that anymore at some tracks. So I get you can't have grippy tracks everywhere because the shapes and the sizes, but just a little bit of dirt, just so you can have that bit of racing and not just follow my leader. That's just speaking from a Speedway fan, not as yeah.
Yep. Well said, Chris. Outside of what we've just talked about and the current sort of impasse within British Speedway, there are some positive signs around. You know, there's strong rumours of returns to the fold for Coventry, for Peterborough, two of your former tracks that I know you've got a lot of time and a lot of love for. What would the prospect of being able to ride once again around a new Brandon or a new East of England showground? How would that appeal to you, Chris?
I'd be great. I hope that. No, I hope it's just the same tracks, but just had a nice, good paint lift. But I'm all for getting these tracks back. You know, for me, Peterborough was always one of my favourite tracks to go because it was a racer's track. You know, lots of lines. I remember when I first doubled up, it was with Peterborough, and I was signed there, and I was only signed as a backup for Steady. And unfortunately, he got injured that year, and I'd done a lot of meetings there. But to ride with like Sullivan and watch his lines and how he would swap and dive underneath someone, I sort of like took that from him, especially around like Peterborough and the tracks like that. And a bit like we do at Glasgow now and everything, but to have tracks where racers track, and say Coventry as well was a racer track, but quite technical as well, because when it was grippy, it was grippy, and you had to hold on for grim death. So if them can come back in the near future before I retire, would be nice. Would be great. You know, I know there's talk of, you know, the next few years we could have maybe one or two of them back. So fingers crossed. I keep everything crossed, and hopefully them guys can get it all back.
You've got a few years on Scott Nicholls yet, Chris. Don't you worry about it. And my final question, Chris. You know, I hope it's very evident from this conversation that we've had tonight. But you know, every supporter of every club in the UK and beyond would love Chris Harris to be in their team. Your efforts, your grittiness, your style, your sheer ability is truly appreciated by supporters and riders alike. You know, fellow riders, I know, really admire you, Chris, for your the person that you are and the ability you have on a bike. So my closing question to you, Chris, is for anyone watching who appreciates your efforts, who's part of that global bomber fan club, what would you like to say, Chris, in terms of the consistent support that you get from the Speedway community?
Just thanks, really big thanks to fans, riders, management, everyone that trusts and in me, really. You know, I am what I am. I say I wear my heart on the sleeve. I want to win. I just want the best for British Speedway. Get it back as big and better as we can ever get it. So just a big thanks to everyone that's always backed me over these years. Not everything always goes to plan, but I always go out there and give 110%, win or lose. Sometimes I might come across a sore loser when we've lost anything, but that's just because I'm a winner and I like to win like everyone. So, but yeah, no, just a love to everybody out there, and a big thanks, and hopefully you can carry on supporting me for a few more years yet. Thank you, Chris.
Chris Harris, you're an absolute gentleman. A pleasure just to have some sit-down talk time with you. Thank you very much for making some time to talk to us here on 360 Speedway.
No problem, thanks for having us.